Say what you want about AI, but it's here. And it's helping businesses get more done in a day. Wix's website builder is infused with AI so you can stay ahead. Create a beautiful, functional website just by describing your idea. Track how your site appears in AI search results. Create custom images on demand or launch an entire campaign in a matter of minutes. Wix gives you AI wherever you need it. Try it now for free at wix.com.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
Welcome to the Get Certified Together, created as part of Technicove, a free knowledge-sharing website based in London. If you love our content, please like and subscribe from your favorite podcast player. Reach out to us via www.technicove.com for suggestions and collaborations.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Get Certified Together series. Now, in this week's episode, we will be continuing our well-architected framework journey provided by AWS. We have already covered few pillars part of that framework. One of them is operational excellence, which we covered in, I think, the episode before the last one. Then in the last episode, we covered security and reliability. In this week's episode, we will be doing performance, efficiency, and cost optimization. I will also try to cover sustainability all the way in the end, because sustainability, I feel like it's a small topic and it will be easily covered in this week's episode. And once it's done, then to be honest, our well-architected framework part is over. The reason why we are covering this before we are moving into AWS security specialist topics and domain-wise task statements, because this is something which is kind of like a prerequisite. We should know what exactly anyone, before deciding to move their infrastructure onto the cloud, what they should consider as part of that movement. And of course, not all pillars are relevant to our certification. Only pillar which we have to take care and we have to cover as much as we can is security pillar, which, as I mentioned, it's covered already in the last week episode. Still, for the sake of it, we should know all the other pillars as well. And that's why in today's episode, we'll be covering performance and cost optimization and sustainability. So I'll try to cover all these three. And before we move into our main episode, let's take a quick short break and let's straight away head into our main episode. All right, welcome back. So let's start with basics. Performance efficiency is all about making the use of your computing resource. So not just making it run fast, but making sure that they are running efficiently as well. And that's more relevant if demand changes or if there's a new technology which is coming along. So if there's a new requirement from your business or from the customers, you have to make sure that you are changing your infrastructure, you are upgrading it, you are introducing new services, but making sure that your core KPIs, your performance is not impacted. So think of it like you are tuning up your car. So you just don't want speed, you want fuel efficiency as well. You want smooth steering, ability to adapt whenever you are driving in the city or on the highway or on the mountain road. So it's all about something similar what we consider as part of performance efficiency in terms of your cloud workloads as well. Now, AWS lays out 5 design principles around this performance efficiency. First of all is we have to make sure that the new advanced technologies are always in use. So of course, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You just use managed service. What do you mean by that is, for every service or for every use case, AWS have some of the managed service which they manage their own, or you can struggle by yourself by building your own machine learning stack or NoSQL database when AWS already provide them as a managed services. So best way for your team or yourself is to focus on building products, not maintaining servers. I mean, that makes sense, right? You don't want to end up maintaining and patching your infrastructure when you all you can do is you can just buy the service from the AWS. Another thing is you have to be global. You have to think globally. So for example, AWS is a cloud infrastructure. I mean, the only point of moving to the cloud, it's not the only point, but one of the point or one of the basic characteristic of the cloud was broad network access. So that's the crux of it. So what you want to make sure is, if you are deploying resources around the globe super quickly, you have to make sure that your app, your infrastructure is closer to the user. So it reduces latency, and of course it improves the better experience as well. AWS provide a lot of services around deploying your application onto the edge. So again, make sure that you're well aware of what sort of AWS services are provided, which are managed by them, and all you have to do is just click on the relevant service and it will be up and running for you. Another bit is around use of serverless architecture. Now, if you are new to the cloud or new to the cloud native ways of working, serverless is nothing but some, you can say, processes or some known workload bound applications which you can run as per your case. For example, if you want to run a Python code, you don't have to create a new EC2, install Python on top of that, and then run your Python code. All you can do is use Lambda, which is a serverless application provided by AWS. All you have to do is you put your Lambda code onto the particular, put your Python code on a particular Lambda application, and then you just run that Lambda function. So it's a serverless architecture or a serverless machine which is working for you, and it takes care of your whole infrastructure. So for simple use cases, when you don't want for every time that there's a new code run, but you don't want to create new machines for that, you don't want to create a full stack server for it, you can use serverless architecture. Another bit is around testing. Now testing is, I think, way overlooked in these days of deployments, because we tend to create and deploy services right away into the production. But it's good to play around with AWS, because it might cost you some money initially, because of course even creating for testing you have to still pay for the resource. But more you test, it will give you different configuration results, it will give you a better design every time. So it's good to like test out what you want to try, what you are thinking in your mind, like what sort of architecture you want to create onto the cloud. Test it out and tweak it and make changes, and of course that will give much better result if you compare to if you deploy everything onto the cloud right away and just roll it out in the production, and then it's kind of messy, right? Another one is basically you don't have to choose trendy tools always. So for example, even in terms of AWS, to be honest, AWS releases a lot of services every day. I mean, if you subscribe to their newsletter, you every week you will get the new services which have been launched, what new things AWS is trying, what new infrastructure or improvement they are doing even in the existing services, new features they are launching. Not everything is required for your use case, so make sure that you just don't put a particular service, or you don't buy a particular AWS managed service just for the sake of it, just because it sounds really fancy. Maybe it might complicate your use case. I might give you an example. If you have like a couple of containers which you want to run, no need to run those on the EC2, no need to run on the separate EKS cluster, because what you will be creating is a big EKS cluster just to run two containers. You will be actually running more pods part of that EKS cluster and management services compared to your single pod. So it's better to just create a EC2 instance. Of course, you have more scalable applications. You want to run more containerized application, and you have more than like maybe couple of maybe 100 or 50 containers or pods, then it makes sense to run on EKS. So these small tweaks you do in your design, you analyze what's your use cases, it will help a lot compared to like straight away deploying something which is not required in your current scenario. So you have to analyze everything. Now in terms of best practices, how do you actually put the performance efficiency? Because AWS of course want you to make sure that you are buying the latest services, and they want you to make sure that your performance is always up. Only then you will be sticking to AWS, right? You won't be moving from AWS to Azure or some other cloud provider. So what AWS does is it breaks it into 4 areas. One is selection, then review, monitoring, and plan trade-offs. So selection is nothing but choosing the right compute, storage, and database for your infrastructure. This means benchmarking, testing, right sizing. For example, don't run a memory-hungry database or a tiny instance, or use metrics and patterns to guide your choices. So you can use CloudWatch and everything. Another bit is review. So what I said, you have to review, you have to continually tweak your design based on what AWS is releasing as part of their new launches, based on your own testing or your own user feedbacks. You have to continuously review, and you have to roll out new services and maybe upgrade or downgrade your instance type, maybe scale it out, put more resources in. Ultimately, the goal is that you have to make sure that performance is always good for end users and it's easy to manage for you as well. In terms of monitoring, it's a big part because you have to keep an eye on KPIs like latency, throughput, database queries. You might have to set up alarms, maybe have to create dashboards, and of course you have to make sure that you are not drifting from the dashboard, from the performance, and your SLAs are meeting. So monitoring is a big part of, I think it's big part of anywhere, even if it's on-prem or onto the cloud. And finally, in terms of trade-off, they always you have to always compare whether you want consistency or durability. So for example, if a customer wants that you put faster way of transactions, like if you have a banking application, you want faster transaction, then you have to make sure that the caching in terms of that application is faster, and it should handle eventual consistency though, because if you want your transaction to go through, but if you want that database to be consistent across multiple cluster, it might be really expensive. I mean, if it's a big bank, then they won't care, but if it's a small bank, then that cost might be huge. So you have to do a trade-off in bit, like whether you want consistency, whether you want durability, if the requirement is more performance oriented, then what trade-offs you can have in terms of, because ultimately it is a nice segue to our next topic, because ultimately everything is related to cost optimization. You don't want to end up like pay a hell lot of money just to run high performance services. If you're getting revenue back, then it's fine, of course. So let's move into the next topic, which is cost optimization. Now, cost optimization is nothing but making a trade-off between speed, performance, and expenses. So like I said, sometimes the right call is to go fast. Maybe you need to launch a new feature or new services, and you might have to hit the deadline, or you might have to maybe move your workload to the cloud faster than what you expected before. But everything comes at a cost, so you have to pay for it, and to deliver that service onto the cloud and make sure that your application is working with the same performance and same operational excellence and is highly secure as well. Everything costs money. So what you don't want to end up is over provision the things, and then you run out of the money. So it's like signing up for a gym membership. I mean, at first you just want to grab the premium package because you want everything right away, but over time you realize that maybe I'm not planning to use the swimming pool, or maybe I just want to go in the non-peak hours, and if it's cheaper for me to go in the non-peak hours, so why I'm paying for that? So cloud costs work sort of the same way. You have to start broad initially, but eventually you have to refine, you have to optimize, and of course cut out the cost. Now again, there are a few design principles around cost optimization as well. First and foremost is FinOps, or financial operations. You can also call it as cloud financial management. So basically you build up the skills, processes, and culture in your company to treat costs like a first class metric. So even if you're engineer level, or if you're sysadmin, if you're a security person, you just have to make sure that everyone have in their mindset that whatever they are doing onto the cloud is a direct, not loss, but is directly related to the cost associated with the work. So if you don't want a server, if you deploy something for the testing purpose, make sure you remove it after your testing. Another bit is around adopting a consumption model. So pay only for what you use. I mean, that's the whole point of having the cloud, right? So if you don't want to keep the dev and test servers running all the night, then just stop them. If you shut them outside your business hours, I mean, you can cut the cost.
How many times have you wished you could be in two places at once? With Wix, you practically can. Wix's website builder is packed with powerful AI tools to make running your business online easier. Build a full site just by talking with AI. Get an AI agent to manage your sales and marketing. Or work like a 10-person team, even if it's just you. So you don't need superpowers to get everything done. You just need Wix. Try it now for free at Wix.com.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ Bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
Around 50% or 75%. So it's all about, again, it's all about your use case requirement, and you have to be really proactive in terms of cloud infrastructure. It's not same as running something on-prem. In on-prem, it's all your servers and your infrastructure is already paid for, and it doesn't matter that it's running day in, day out. But in cloud, if you run something overnight and if it's not needed, then it's a straight away cost optimization for you. And it will be a nice segue into our sustainability side as well, this particular bit of shutting down. So make sure you remember this fact, and we'll be discussing it more into the sustainability side of thing. Now, another bit is which we discuss in the performance side of as discussion as well, that no need to do heavy lifting of your deployment. So no need to put like your big infrastructure and have like a old way of working where you have EC2 with a direct attached storage, and then you are paying for both storage cost as well as your EC2 compute as well. Use serverless, maybe try to cut down cost on your use case, and try to make sure that you use more of AWS managed services. So in a way you are easily tackling some of the associated costs. So for example, if you want to create an infra jump host for your team, then don't create a Windows machine with your own license. Just buy a AWS managed workspace. I mean, they will be hell cheaper because you don't have any cost associated with your own license. What you will do is you pay just one-time cost to your AWS service manager, and then you get the service up and running in no time. And you can, of course, revoke and remove that service whenever you don't want it. So yeah, I mean, no point of putting your efforts in deploying those infrastructure. Another bit is like analyzing and attributing the cost. So make sure that you know where your money is going in and out. So that actually comes under our financial management and FinOps side of thing. We have to make sure that every workload, every infrastructure is classified, is tagged to department owners. So ultimately we have some sort of like ownership in terms of who is responsible for that cost. It's not necessarily that, for example, if you're deploying infrastructure for engineering team as part of, because you're a cloud team and you're deploying infrastructure for engineering team, doesn't mean that engineering team have to pay for that workload, because ultimately you are part of the same organization. But at least when your finance team is reviewing the cost, they have better understanding of like which department is costing them more money, and they can actually talk to relevant people to cut down the cost instead of knocking on your doors like, can you cut down this cost? But ultimately you are not responsible for that cost, right? So it's good to tag your workload as well. It helps in, of course, delivering a certain level of transparency and help drive better decisions. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. Now, in terms of best practices, you have to set up a dedicated team or process if you are a big organization, so you can have like finance and tech together, and everyone so finance team, they understand, you have to make sure that they understand the technical terms, and technical team, they have to understand that everything is coming up with a financial implication. So use budgets, forecast and reports to make sure that everyone is aware of the cost. And that's the same thing, means you have to make sure that everyone is aware of the cost associated with the cloud. So it should be part of the culture, not something which you're thinking afterwards. I think something similar with security as well. We keep on repeating the same thing, that it should be part of your thought process. It's not something which you think in the later stage, like, oh, we should have to make it we should have made it secure in the first place. So something similar with the cloud as well. You have to make sure that it's part of your thought process when you're deploying a new infrastructure. Awareness around this expenditure is of course helping everyone. So and tagging your resource, tracking usage, setting policies, everything works, everything help you out. So we just have to make sure that it's not about saving money, it's about making the smart choices. So sometimes if there is no other option, of course you have to deploy. For example, I said that EKS cluster bit, right? If there is no option, then you have to deploy a cluster. There's no choice around that, and you have to make sure that you're cloud native, you are working on latest technologies, you're using AWS services. I mean, they also cost much. If you're really creating a high performance, operationally excellent, secure infrastructure onto the cloud, it will come with the money. It will cost you some money. So it's no one is asking you as part of cost optimization is that you don't do that, but only idea is just make the smart choices. So it's you plan it out as part of your initial deployment itself. Don't think it's just what I mentioned before. Don't just think it as part of your afterthought. You have to make sure while you're designing the stuff, use the smart choices. So choosing the right services, sizes, pricing models, everything works. I mean, everything is helping, even small bits like I mentioned, if you shut down your machine in the night time itself, for the whole night and just start it up in the day business hours, it can also save you around 50% of your usage. So everything works and everything is helpful. Even those small bits are really helpful in terms of the cost onto the cloud. Another bit is we have to optimize over time. So I mean, this is a big thing, right? So AWS release constantly new services, new instance types, and older instance types, if you're using, they sometimes start costing more money gradually because they are the old hardware which AWS is managing for you. They of course want to swap it out, right? So suddenly you feel like if you move to the latest versions, use latest features, they might be slightly cheaper than the older ones. And could be other way around as well. Sometimes the new features they just launch for the sake of it. Doesn't mean that you have to just straight away jump on it. So if what we discussed in performance discussion as well, something is trendy new doesn't mean that it's necessarily good for you from the costing perspective as well. So again, review, decide, and then update according to your requirement. Don't just straight away jump on whenever there is a new service, maybe you have to buy it. I mean, if you think from the perspective of if I give you an example, then if there's an e-commerce site, like if you're selling your products online and that's your application which is hosted onto the cloud, if your application is not using much resources in known business hours, or maybe nighttime people are not shopping that much, then you can scale down the resources. Something similar is with your OTT platform as well. So for example, in India, cricket is big thing, right? So if you're a OTT provider and you have got like contract of broadcasting a certain event for the users, during that event, of course there'll be big chunk of users suddenly coming and overwhelming your website. They want to watch the live stream of the game, and once that's done, you don't need same number of resources because people might not be using your application anymore. So according to that, you can scale up and scale down your application, and it will again save money. So it's not about having high performance, operational, always secure. I mean, always secure is a thing, but yeah, in terms of performance, you can easily do the trade-off. So you don't need performance always, like it shouldn't be like 100% up always. So according to those requirements, you can easily cost optimize. Now I told you that we can easily move from cost optimization to the sustainability side as well. When you switch off your machine, it is not only helping you in terms of your cost, of course it's helping in terms of less number of resources being used. Sustainability is a good thing from the environment perspective, because you're not only deciding that this particular action which you are doing as part of shutting down your machine is not only saving money for you, but because you're using less resources, you are using less computes. AWS is running maybe less compute power for you, so less power in terms of like electricity and cooling for those servers where your workload was running. So ultimately everything comes with a benefit for everyone. So sustainability is nothing but you have to You have to only decide what you want to use, and you have to make sure that you just don't run the service just for the sake of it. I mean, if you go to their official design principle provided by AWS, then ultimately for each cloud workload, we have to establish a long-term sustainability goal, such as like reducing the compute and storage requirement per transaction. So instead of, like I mentioned, if it's like if it's used only maybe for a couple of days in a month, then don't put the additional resources for your application. You have to anticipate and adopt new and more efficient hardware and software offerings, and this something is which ties up with AWS launching new hardware because they are more efficient, and what they eventually want is people stop using the older instance type. So if you can do it, then of course you should do it, because newer might be not only costing you less, but of course might be helpful in making sure that you are ticking that sustainability goal as well. And using managed services by AWS is another good thing, because AWS under the hood will then make sure that they are running the best compute resources, and they are not just over provisioning just for the sake of it. So when we use AWS managed services, we are ultimately relying on AWS to not only provide services according to the performance which we want with best costing, but also we are making sure that AWS is then ensuring that your application is, or your workload which you are taking as part of AWS managed service, is ticking box in terms of sustainability as well. So it's again win-win situation for everyone. Now what we want to achieve from sustainability is it's a continuous effort focused on energy reduction and efficiency across all components of workload, and of course we want it to have like maximum benefit from the resources provision and minimizing the total resources required. So it's a trade-off again. You have to make sure that you are getting the right amount of performance without over provisioning. So ultimately you are reducing your energy usage, and you're using modern algorithm, you are using efficient data storage techniques, and you're deploying right size of compute infrastructure, and that ultimately help out in reducing the energy consumption, and ultimately it help in ticking that sustainability box. Right, so these are the well-architected framework pillars, and they are available as part of AWS official documentation. I'll share the link in the show notes, and you can read through themselves as well. I mean, it's really good to know all of them. But what I mentioned, from our perspective, security is the main pillar which we'll be focusing on. So from next week, we will be starting our first domain. And in first domain topics, I mean, I told you in the beginning of this series that I will decide when we will reach into the domain level stage, which one to start. Should we start like continue the exact exam framework, or should we do it based on our own understanding and knowledge, so we don't cover like everything in one by one as a steps, but instead we can maybe cover domain 3 or domain 4 first, which cover more towards cloud infrastructure, and then we move to domain 1, which is like incident response planning, and domain 2 all the way in the end, which is only related to logging. So I will take this next week time to go through all of the domain topics again, and I will then decide which one we should start first, and then we will be starting our whichever topic I choose in the next week episode. And ultimately before December I have to prepare everything, because December is my exam date. So all right, thank you, goodbye, and good luck.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Follow the show so you don't miss out, as we deliver piping hot topics every week.
Ever see an idea so clearly in your head, but struggle to make it real? We've all been there. With Wix, you can build a website for your business just the way you pictured it. Get the best of both worlds with AI and drag-and-drop tools all in one place. Stay in your creative flow and use AI when you want, how you want. Create a website your way. Try it out at Wix.com.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.